Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Avant Novus map tutorial live stream. My name is Dan, and today we are going to be finishing up the map we made in our previous live stream. I hope you had a wonderful Halloween. It is now November 2nd. Man, it's been a crazy last 3 weeks. We, of course, would like to thank our sponsors, ArtRage, for their promotions. If you want to get ArtRage, that's the program we're using. Check the link out. It helps us out if you click on that. Really appreciate that. But I'd also like to say thank you very much to Mini Wargaming. The guys over there, Matt, mentioned us in a Facebook blog, and man, that just... If you ever need to do advertising, do it with Mini Wargaming guys. They are amazing. Well, you know what? No bones about it. Let's get started. This is the map we've been working on for the last couple of days. I'm actually really liking this map. What we've done is in the previous video, we've gone over kind of the land shape. We've added a texture, and we added additional elements like these mountains and stuff like that. I'm going to just go over a couple things here. And this is just for anybody that is interested. What we're doing today is we're going to be finishing up this map by adding more erosion lines. We're adding rivers, and then we're going to go in and paint the map itself and add forests. Now, one of the particular cool things about ArtRage is how let's go back here, is how it handles adding mass onto an image. Okay, it not only renders everything in real time. Like example of that is if we go here, if we fix these things which I missed, it renders it in real time. It creates a light map, a depth and height map. But it also, the way it does that is it goes in and first of all you have your bottom sheet of paper. Your bottom layer as such. Now, usual programs would just, you're just modifying the pixels and everything else, and you're just adding, different layers on top of stuff. ArtRage does something different. It actually adds and keeps track of how much in each section, how much mass there is. Okay, we're using that to create different layers, just like this, of different layers of paint on top of each other. Then we're coming in and we are quite literally cutting into it and adding additional texture to those layers so they stack on each other. And this process is giving us this kind of effect in real time. So let's go ahead and let's get started with the rivers themselves. Now, we've been developing a certain technique for this. To do this technique, we go into our ink pen. Okay, so let's bring that up. We click on our ink pen. We bring up our settings, and to set this ink pen up, we're first going to go down to our, let's go to a technical pen. Put about at 4. Let's go in and change the settings now for this process. We are actually we've been developing a technique that allows us to create realistic tapered rivers. In order to do that, this is our technical pen. First of all, we are going to, our taper bias, we're going to put down to 0, and we're going to increase the taper length to full. What this is going to do for us, let me grab another layer here. There we go. This is allowing us to create oh, I am tired today, folks. I'm so sorry. Tapered. There we go. There we go. We're creating a tapered length of rivers as such. So when we add them to the map, it starts thick at the bottom of the ocean, and it goes up. Here's my presets for this, and let me tell you what they do. First of all, my opacity is at 100%, my pressure is at 50%. Okay, aspect is 100, and that's fine. No rotation. It's not really a factor in this one. Smoothing's at 0. I don't want it. If we have smoothing on an ArtRage, if I do some scraggly lines, it's gonna try to help with that. Kind of don't want that. So smoothing's down to 0. Taper's at 100%. And our taper bias, if I have it at 0%, the start of it here will be a lot thicker, and it will taper off at the end of the line. If I change that to 100%, starting the same space and going up, the taper starts out small at the first and ends big at the end of the stroke. Okay, we've been playing with that. The taper bias at 0% is probably, it seems to us, the best way to go. Okay, we've also planned out how our map is the climate of the map, and I'm just bringing that up right now. And this is kind of what we planned. We have an Arctic zone up here. We have a temperate zone here and a subtropical drier region down here. We also have the different movements of the air and the weather, and depending on those and the placement of the mountains, that's giving us, we've planned out kind of where our forests are going to be. That's these green spots. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to reduce the opacity of this layer to 50%, 10%, maybe 20% for this part of it. We're going to come back to our active layer. All right, right here. This layer that I just showed, this is what we did to make the texture last time. We just used our eraser brush with a very soft edge, and we cut all these erosion lines. We're not going to use this part of the map, so we might as well just get rid of that as well. All right, going over, this was covered in the previous video, but we're going to cover it right now just so everybody is aware of what we're doing and also the size of our tools. Our print size on this is 11 inches by 8.5 inches with a pixel per square inch of 450. That resolution of 450 is gigantic. If we're producing a magazine level print, it's usually between 200 and 300. Poster size is at 100. Images and books is 100 to 72. So the 450 allows us to make really gigantic maps, very detailed. If someone grabs one of these maps and wants to do anything, they can expand it, they can resize it to be very small or very large without losing some quality details. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. The technique we're going to use is kind of like creating a stencil and then cutting the stencil apart. Let me show you. We are going to be on a new layer. We are going to make a really horrific color, and we're just going to be, let's get our brush back here. Again, here's our settings for this brush. We're going to be making these tapered lines all throughout it. We're going to then use those tapered lines to actually mold and cut into into our bottom layer here. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to change the color so it's something really nastily, horrifically bright, noticeable. So we're right there. Again, this is live. I think that it's important for people to see the mistakes, messes, how I mess things up, how I fix stuff. We're all here to learn, and me especially, me more than anybody else. So let's go ahead and start on our rivers. Now, looking in our background, we have a lot of rainfall in those green areas, so we're going to put a good deal of our rivers in those areas. Okay, so I'm going to start here, and I'm using this purple just to show us on the map where stuff is. And all this really cool texture we've already put into this map, I'm just kind of follow it up into these mountains as such. And if you notice, the closer it gets, let's experiment here, folks. Let's use smoothing on this a little bit. Be anti-A-list too. Yeah, let's try that out. Let's try that out. Just now, let's drop smoothing. Again, this is about experimenting. We're developing our own techniques and different ways to do this every time we make a map. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just following all these really cool little curves and strata that's already been in this, that we've already created in this map. I'm focusing where the rain would be flowing. You got one really big river right here, so let's throw that in like that. Let's say this big part of it, this canyon right here that we made. Then we're going to have these small little tributaries come up into the river itself. Let me know on voice. We are currently streaming on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, YouTube live channel. Thank you for joining us, everybody. Hope you are having a very well-earned November so far. Hope Halloween or whatever harvest festival or whatever holiday you just participated in was wonderful. And again, I'm just adding rivers to where I think they should be. Now, because the wind in this area, you got this big movement of wind here off the ocean. We're not going to get much rivers in this area. However, I'm going to just assume, oh look, I messed up on a pot. Let's fix that really quick. To fix something like this, I go in with my brush, with my knife tool. You can see that in the video. Just click that. I like to, if I see a problem, I like to fix it immediately. We are going to add a large kind of like Danube River, maybe, coming down from the north. We're going to assume this river, it's formed by meltwater, by glacial streams. So every time in spring, it's going to get really full, overflow its banks. That's good. So we want this really kind of a meandering river. I'm not pushing too hard on it because for the most of the year, it's not that big, but when it goes nuts. Just adding little tiny tributaries into it. So we have another, let's put something like that in here. I don't like the size of this river, so I'm going over it one more time. This part of the river anyways. I think this should be bigger. To avoid this, I should reduce the taper length. ArtRage definitely allows us to modify on the go here. Let's reduce taper length right here and just see what happens. We got some hills here. Let's say we have another from right here up this canyon. We're just adding another river. There we go. Another little bisecting line. Oops, went right through a mountain there. We don't want that. Pretty awesome though. Alright, so we kind of have this cool little fallout river. It's kind of come down here. You gotta excuse me, I am absolutely exhausted today. We've been battling the dreaded killer funk that has been going on for the last couple of months. It definitely makes me sick as a dog. One of the joys of having a very compromised immune system. Yay! There we go. No, I've had it's called immune deficiency syndrome. I've had it since I was in 3rd grade. It means that I'm a little plague rat. If there's any like type of cold or anything that comes into play. I'll get it and get sick. Kind of stinks, but you know what? I'd rather have my problems than another person's problems. Okay, so we've gotten that done. Let's go ahead and we're just going to focus on these areas that we know are going to be very conducive to forest growth. There's going to be rivers and tributaries, and we already know that these areas are going to be the most heavily rivered with the moisture and with also the erosion of these. Since we've planned this all out in the previous video, we understand that these areas are where most of the water is collected due to the weather patterns of this area. Alright, it's not too bad. Let's go ahead and move down here. And because we've added those textures into our previous little expedition to this land, we're just building upon our layers, building upon what we've done in the past, following all these cool little textures we made. This place is great. This is probably going to be our jungle area once we do we're going to do some jungles today. We're going to do some forests. We're generally going to have a good time. Again, I want to take this slow. Usually we do a map in 1 hour, but the last Monday's video and today's video, that'd be Friday's video, we're just focusing on going slow and letting people see how we do stuff. Okay, let's come over here. The reason for that is one of the big design concepts with Avant Novus is that we want people to be able to create their own maps, be able to create their own ideas, provide them with the tools to do that. We don't believe in today's society that hoarding knowledge or making people, holding back information is never a good thing. We want people to learn and grow, and we want people to enjoy what we enjoy and experience this creative process with us. Now I am kind of branching off on some of these deserty zones. Alright, doing good with the rivers. Let's come down here. We're not going to get many rivers here. We're just going to get 1 or 2. We'll just assume that as the clouds climb over this mountain range, that they're just dumping some water. However, that is going to give us a little bit of precipitation with that rain shadow. Now we're back here. That is a good question. I actually, since we've been going so strong for the last about a month, doing, maps in 1 hour, live streaming at least 3 times a week. That first week, oh my gosh, that was like 6 live streams. That creative juices were a little burned out after that week, I'll tell you that much. This week it's, we've had Halloween, we've had a bunch of other things. We've had a wonderful project from some dear friends. I'm not going to mention it yet because if they go live, I might mention it. I will definitely give them shout outs on every possible thing I can. They've helped us out a lot, but we got a commission to do some work for them. I won't spoil who that is, but one single commission with them increases our audience levels exponentially. And since they're our friends, I probably can share this. We're about providing for our families. But those guys, now I probably won't go into it. We have an agreement with them that they'll give us occasional shout outs, and whatever they want help with, if they want our help making maps or something, we'll just do for them. Oops, do not like that line. Okay. I think there's going to be a little bit of another one of those seasonal rivers right in this area that leads up all the way to these canyons up here. Oh, 1 second. Again, welcome to the live stream. If you're following us on Twitch, I'd like to welcome you there too. Also on our 2 YouTube channels and on Facebook. This map we'll probably offer it to the general public. I don't know pricing on that yet. It'll be available on DriveThruRPG, Nook, Kindle, the whole shoot shebang like we usually do. This isn't one of our big maps. Our really big maps, those are poster size. And those run about $5 a piece, or $20 for 5 of them. These maps, I'm not sure. We don't have a product line for our map in 1 hours, these tutorial maps. But we've had a lot of interest, and people really want to get a hold of them for their own projects. We're just kind of figuring out how we want to go about that. All right, we've got some really cool rivers. Just going to make a couple little tributaries right here off this. Going to work on these drier lands. Now I'm noticing right here on this map, we kind of have a square issue. So I'm going to go in and I'm just going to tweak. We're going to unlock this bottom layer. Going to grab yield eraser and I'm just lightly going to push on it. Get rid of these square. It is very rare that in nature you get a straight line. There we go. We'll go back, lock our transparency that layer. That means any little piece of this layer that doesn't have paint on it will never have paint on it. But the layers that we can modify any paint on it. Now we're back up into this 4th layer, which we haven't locked, which is allowing us to draw anything, anywhere, and at any time. Looks like now I'm just double checking, making sure that we're consistent with our planning. There we go, a little bisection of river that was there. It is actually quite common for a river to bisect going downhill, especially in very wet areas, especially if it hits something, a harder mass. Alright, I think we're really good on river. Actually, let's come up here. And we're going to start here, and I think we're going to make just for lore purposes and world planning, we're going to make this gigantic map right here. We're going to have a really twisty, crazy river that comes through here. This is all the runoff in the really high mountains in the Arctic regions. It's also kind of like the lifeblood for whatever lives up there. All right, let's go ahead and turn off our planning layer. Looking at the overall map, that actually feels good. Okay, back to our technique. This layer itself, we are going to come in. Let me turn off the bottom layer. So these are, these are all our rivers. We're going to go to our selection tool in ArtRage, grab our magic wand brush, put the mode to difference. We're going to make sure it's on our current layer only. And we're going to double check that your anti-alias is off, because we definitely don't want that to be on. Okay, we're going to select the transparent pixels, or the places with no transparencies. That is going to highlight all of our around the rivers. Now up here, we're also going to hold down Shift and select all these areas as well. We're going to look at that and say, hey, yeah, that's not bad. That's actually quite good. Now we're going to reverse our selections. To do that, we hit Edit. We go down to Invert Selection. The shortcut keys is Control-Shift-I on that. And that's going to now select only where we have paint on. We're now going to take that paint into our lower level here. That selection. We're going to unlock our transparency. We're going to hide the layer we just did. And we're going to hit delete once. And we have instant rivers all across the map. Again, going back, showing you exactly what I did. I'm going to step back in time for this technique. Just Control Z the crud out of that. Okay, I've drawn my rivers on a higher level. I've done it in a really weird color so we can see exactly where they're at. I've used a custom brush that I've made here at the settings. It's tapering from the ocean up. To get started with this, I hide the bottom layer because I don't want to see it. It has no effect. I want the visibility of what I'm doing here first. I go into my selection tool in ArtRage. That's this little square box. I choose the magic wand right here. I choose the difference. And I make sure I'm only affecting the current layer. ArtRage is really cool. You can choose to affect multiple layers or just one layer at a time. On the image itself, I'm clicking on the transparency. Any transparencies it doesn't select because I've created borders. I go in, I hold down Shift, and I select those areas as well. Okay, I pull out to see if I haven't missed anything. Looks like we're good to go. Now I want to invert the selection. To do that, I hit Edit. I go down to Invert Selection. The shortcut for ArtRage for this is Control-Shift-I. I then invert it. Using that selection, I hide the river layer. I come down to our base layer with all our texture and all that layered paint. I unlock the layer and hit delete. And I get the rivers that I wanted and everything else. Okay. At this point, since we're moving into coloring now, we are going to add the ocean. Okay. To do that, I'm going to go in and select, first of all, place a unlock bottom layer. ArtRage unlocks everything by default. There's my settings for my tool bucket. Spread at 22%. Gap tolerance at 17%. Really doesn't matter in this. I am now going to select a nice kind of pastel-y blue. I don't want to go too crazy with this because it doesn't look right if I go too crazy. The samples that I'm using currently, just to let you know, samples are, you go to select from collection. I'm using beach and desert. Any additional swatches I've made, I've already put them there. So we're going to add this sample right here. We're going to take our paintbrush, our can. Looks like, if you notice right there, it hasn't filled up all the way into it. There's a couple of reasons for that. Okay. With my paintbrush, I have not hit current layer only, and also I have a gap tolerance on. So what that did is ArtRage is thinking ahead, and it just hit these areas that add to other areas that that are greater than 17 pixels. So let's go ahead and Control Z that out. And I'm going to reduce my gap tolerance to 0. I'm going to increase my spread to 100%. And also I'm going to take any metallic out of my paint because I want this a flat gradient. Now, this current layer only, if I had my other crazy layers on here, it would actually take those layers into account, and it would, see, like right there. Oh, we messed up right there. You know what? I like that. That's a cool happy accident. It gives us kind of a... We actually deleted this part of the map. That's fine. That's a kind of a cool happy accident. It makes this whole area, you're wondering, oh, what's over there? There's kind of like this peninsula. That's cool. That works. That works. Okay. Back to this. Paint bucket, spread it full. We're going to turn current layer only, so no other data from our other layers goes into this. No gap tolerance. No slow motion. And I've got, we could probably go a little bit darker. Maybe not that dark. Find a good in between. Too purple. Now I'm being picky. Now you're all doomed. Okay, that works right there. Okay. Let's go ahead and we are going to bring our samples in because we're going to get really crazy with those here in a second. Select our base here. Now, this green on this map, this is the underneath layer. On our canvas setting, I have this green color. If I could get rid of that or change the color. When we carve these rivers out, we're going to start carving them here in a second to kind of have a mesh a little bit better. That under image from the canvas is going to seep through a little bit. Okay. What we're going to do now is go into our knife tool. It's just the spatula here. We're going to go to Harsh Chaos. This is a preset with ArtRage. And with that, I'm just going to drag. We're just going to drag that up along these big rivers. If you notice, it's by doing that, it's actually pushing the paint away from those empty lines. Again, my layer is locked. There we go. Check that action out, guys. And it's creating this really cool kind of strata. Now, in drier places, I don't want that much strata. But like where rivers and stuff meet, definitely a lot of strata there. Actually, I don't like the look of that. We'll ignore science. All right, here we go. You see, I'm actually physically carving out these river valleys. And with that harsh chaos, I'm actually going in and we're changing. There we go. We are changing the strata to everything. And we're actually going to use those highs and lows and those valleys as we paint. Coming over here to our happy little accident. This is going to be interesting. And I'm just going to touch up the coastline here too, since we kind of messed up here and just cut away this entire area. That's fine though. It's become a really cool. So we kind of got this channel here, like between the Mediterranean and the Black Sea. Maybe throw, if I'm making a world, throw like a big fortress or a big city there, or an ancient ruin that's cursed that was a big fortress and or city that someone took out because people were not playing nice in the sandbox. Okay, and here I am. I'm still going. I'm still just cutting into stuff. In the drier areas, I'm not pushing too hard. In the wet areas, I'm just going over stuff. I really am not caring about my texture. I rather have it blend than preserve some of these features. Because it really, it meshes well. It creates kind of a cool little look here. Now this river ends wet, but starts really dry. So we're just gonna do just the tiniest about, just on my stylus. I'm barely even touching the canvas. Now that pressure and fallout, the pressure and fall off, but primarily the pressure is allowing me to control the pressure of my pen. I really like a lot of range in my stylus. Alright, not too bad there, not too bad there. I think right down here it's going to be like grasslands, like really tranquil valleys and stuff like that. I'm kind of excited for dude down there. And you see, I'm just planning out as I go, just kind of creating a story in my head on what's here and what's not. Now for world building though, I generally, like right up here, I will create like notes in a different color than my ocean. Go over to our happy accident. Okay. I'll just usually create notes and stuff on a different layer. That way when I come back and finish it up or add force or anything else into this, I can see what I've done and see how I've done anything else like that. Oops, hidden layer. Gasp. It's like the hidden tunnel, but with layers. Okay, working from the beginning with those rivers. The beginning of the rivers story. Reminds me of an episode with Animaniacs. Love that show. They did like this Apocalypse Now video that always just cracks me up. There we go. Alright. Those are our rivers. So let's go ahead now and we're going to start adding paint to this. Okay. And we're primarily going to use our airbrush. Okay. Let's start with the preset. Big and subtle. It's actually pretty good. It's 100. And if I'm painting, it's going to be doing that kind of thing. And again, your airbrush is very pressure sensitive. So let's go ahead and we're going to start with our deserts. Let's start with this down here. Okay. And I'm just going to slowly, with not much pressure on my brush, I just messed something up already. I am doing little circles right there. However, one of the cool features about ArtRage is on your color selection, you can add a metallic amount of paint into it. If I add a lot of metallic paint, you know, I'm getting this kind of shiny, really shiny metallic-like color into this. Okay, and how that works is with how the light effects are rendered in real time. That metallic paint, that metallic setting, just enhances that, darkens your color, and makes sure if there's any texture underneath it, it really makes it pop. I'm going to go to about 20% here, metallic. Just tones it down a little. But it's also going to make all these details that I've already put in this map really start to pop out. Now you don't want to go overboard, otherwise it's going to look kind of funny, unless you want a metallic world of doom. Now I'm back here. Again, like an airbrush, you just kind of be very fluid. I'm actually going to start by painting all the big land masses down here. I'm not worried about crossing onto the green, I'm just painting. See? You can always go in and fix stuff. Get around the mountain valleys, trying to keep the feel of that desert consistent. Further south we go, the stronger it's going to be. So I'm actually coming down in this area, another layer, just a couple layers of very smooth paint. All hail Duncan from the Warhammer channel. If you guys ever want to get some really cool tips on painting, two places I recommend. The Warhammer channel has a guy that, his name's Duncan, and the man is a lunatic. He just, when he's painting models or miniatures, he just busts those out like crazy. Another really good place to go is miniwargaming.com. because we're actually technically painting a three-dimensional image here, I use a lot of their same techniques, like the like a base, a highlight, a low light, metallic paints, washes, and stuff like that. Go check that place out. They have a vault membership if you really get into it, which is a huge bargain. They're not paying me to say this, but we have provided them some of our bigger maps for their vault members. Alright. But they have some amazing miniature painting tutorials. And we might be, just for grins, I have a nephew that's really into painting, and we might have him start his own little adventures, put something up on YouTube. Okay, so we kind of got this orange color, and yeah, it's okay, it's nice. Let's go ahead and we're going to start working on the mountains themselves down here. Now, mountains in the deserts have actually two colors. You have a darker color at first, and that's because the heavier minerals are still present, and they're going to be mostly darker most of the time. So I'm just taking this kind of this ochre color and just throwing it in there. Again, this is from, I believe, from the beach settings. Just one of the presets. You get these all in ArtRage when you get it. ArtRage is not paying us to do this video. They are providing, however, some affiliate links that allows us to, if you are really interested in this product and really like what we're doing here, you just click that. We receive a percentile of the sales, and everybody's happy. I'm happy, you're happy, ArtRage is happy, and we really appreciate the support. Anyways, back to the mountains down here in the desert area. So we're going to start with a darker strata, like right up here. Any of these raised areas, I'm coming in, kind of adding a darker strata to that. The metallic paint's going to get in all those little crevices and stuff like that. It's also showing that the material is being pulled down from the mountain, down from these higher areas, and it's also going to help with the blending processes of the color. Also, in these other areas, if I have higher areas in the desert, I add the same brown to it. Now, landforms are really interesting if you look at natural landforms. Okay? First of all, you got weird colors creeping up. There's really no symmetry. If you're looking in the southwest United States, like Arizona, Utah, New Mexico, crazy. I mean, you can go a couple miles and you'll have completely different biomes even. I think in Utah there is, it goes from, there's parts of the mountains are actually subtropical with the amount of rainflow they get. In southern Utah, because it's quite warm there, there's little canyons that funnel moisture. There's a place called Zion's Park. It actually technically has a rainforest in it. Desert, salt flats, the little shooting shebang. All right. So we've got the initial painting of our mountains done. Now we're going to come in with a lighter painting. We're going to reduce the size of our brush to about 60%. And we are just going to run in little circles. We're just going to run this brush over the mountains. Now the darkness has got all into those cracks. We're trying to preserve those, but we're just trying to highlight these just a touch. Actually, I think that's too big. Yeah, I'm looking at that, and that's actually way too big. Okay, let's drop this down to about 30%. A little smaller than that. And then we're just going to be highlighting the very top of these mountains. This is where the wind's basically acted as a giant sandpaper, and it's just ripping the top of these mountains off. That's why your mountains in the desert, the peaks of them are a lot brighter, a lot more smooth. Our last video, we showed you how to do these wonderful textures on mountains. going from a really rough square shape into these smooth forms and then cutting them out. Literally using erosion to cut those suckers out. Alright, doing good there, doing good. They're really popping now. And again, this dark, if you have, you know, we've got some really dark lines here. Don't worry about those. We'll get to those in a second. Now this mountain in this area, I'm kind of not liking how, you know, it looks very weathered. So I've just selected our harsh chaos brush that we used previously. I'm going in between these mountain passes. And I am just crackling them up. See that? Little touch, and boom, instant mounts. Just kind of follow-up video. Then we're back to our airbrush. We're back to very gently cutting everything while just highlighting the very tops of the mountains. Again, we're back. We're just highlighting these. We're keeping the same highlights and blending them from the top mountains to the bottom mountains. There we go. See how those pop like crazy? Maybe same thing up here. We'll go back to our ochre color. Increase to 100. Maybe some up here. Kind of keeping our blending a little consistent. Maybe hit these mountains right here. That ochre. Then we're going to go back to that nice... I don't think it was that color. Yeah, it was that color. Go down to back to 30. We're going to hit the peaks of our mountains. Yeah, see, nice pop there. Let's come down here and do about the same thing here. And then we're going to go to our climate, our planned out stuff. And where we see the green, we're actually going to use snow-capped mountains. To do that, it's just white. Go down to about, oh, I don't know, 10%. We're going to up our metallic to about 32%. And we're just going to find these peaks and ridge lines. Increase our pressure. Oh, well, if I did that in the right map, that'd be cool. And we're just on these very peaks. We're not doing too much down here. But we are just going to be adding little tufts of snow onto these peaks. Down here where we're definitely in that rain shadow. Oh yeah. Granted, most of the snow never melts because of elevation and height. Again, I'm just attacking the very tops of the peak. Let's go ahead and have a look at that. Yeah, see? Same thing down here on these peaks. Again, keep my reference open. I'm going to reduce that to about 15%. And we're back into this. Again, this area is going to be a little bit cooler, so we're going to get a lot more cold mountains here. Up here, same thing. Again, on this side of it, where there's actual moisture building up. Okay, let's go ahead and get rid of that reference. All right, our deserts are coming along just fine. Let's kind of finish up the deserts here. We're going to use a kind of more of a paint that is a little more pastel. Not that paint. Drop the... I'm not liking that. Just a very almost bland. It's a little too pink in that one. We're just going to make our own now. That's good right there. We'll add another sample. All right. We're going to start to blend everything together. We're just going to go in and on these lower parts in the desert, just run this light color into the low spaces, the spaces that are at a lower elevation. That's where all the sediment has collected. See that? So our wind, like you mentioned before, our wind's blown the top of the mountains apart, act as a giant sandpaper. Again, I'm just running my brush with this color, just kind of a pastel into the lower places that have formed. Higher places will be a heavier material. So I'm just adding the dust of mountains all over. That's a really kind of a very cool way to think of this. I'm just going where the dust of the top of these mountains has gone everywhere. That's the effect you get. Really cool desert effect. Here, maybe this is like more rocky ground. Same thing up here. Again, we definitely don't want to get rid of that ochre. Dark brown there, so we're just going to run the dust. It's going to collect into the smaller regions. Alright, not too bad there. Not too bad at all. I do want to kind of fix this green in there. I'm not, that doesn't say desert to me, so I'm going to select kind of a lighter green. I don't like that either. Whoops. I accidentally hit Control X. Control X actually will clear a layer. This is a bad thing. We'll fix that here in a second. So it's removing all the height data. Since we have so much paint on this, it's removing like maybe a ½ inch of paint off the canvas, so it's going to take its own sweet time. All right, just wait for that to get done. Let's see. Hi, welcome to the channel. My name is Dan. We're just finishing up our realistic fantasy map tutorial Thanks for joining on Twitch. Feel free to follow or don't. We're also on YouTube if you want to check these out. Program we're using is ArtRage 5. So yeah, this, there we go. I hit Control Z too fast and it was like, okay, I'll delete everything, but I'll put it back. I'm sorry. Okay. Let's go with, I'm going to go with kind of a darker green. I'm going to reblend these colors here. Since these are really green areas, I'm going to come in first of all and put a uniformed, let's go a little uniform swatches of green. That green we used on the background of this had a little too much blue in it, so I'm getting kind of this Arctic feel. The deserts, we want a vibrant green on the edges because it's all about that contrast. That's what are so exciting about deserts. Well, one of the many things. I love deserts. Okay, I start with the dark green, going in with kind of a pale green here, and I'm just running it over this darker green slightly, and then we'll blend this up together. We're going to hit all those highlights after we put a dark base down. See, a little more green there, a little more green there, green there, green there. All right, cool. Let's come over here. These look good. That looks good. I think it was just right there. Yeah, no, that actually really looks really good. I like that. I'm not going to mess with that. Okay, let's come up into our temperate zone here. Temperate zone, we're going to start. This is going to be quite a large amount of redo on our texture. We're going to start with a darker color. That's not bad right there. Let's start with that green. And we're just going to apply it to the bottom area of this. We're not going to start with the mountains on this one yet. I'm just running this color up the rivers. I'm not pushing too hard. I want our base, that base color that we made. I like that base color. So we're going to try to preserve some of that. Not too much, but some of that. So I'm going to run this green that doesn't have much blue in it up into these rivers. Little circular effects. I really don't, at this point, I don't have to be too careful where I'm putting the paint, so I'm just throwing it on there. When I come to a mountain, I just kind of back off a little bit, but I'm still running all that moisture. Okay, I'm just imagining I'm a little storm running moisture up into those mountains, up into that temperate area. We're an hour into the broadcast, guys. Usually we just go for an hour. However, with these tutorials, Mondays and todays, we are taking our time, feeling things out, working with how natural ArtRage is, enjoying our happy accidents, and again, running slow, showing you exactly what I'm doing so you can make your own maps. Again, I'm running the moisture up into the mountains. Okay. Now I'm being a little more careful, and I'm going in and just highlighting. I'm just using this color to kind of highlight the mountains. On these higher parts, like right here, I'm backing off. Look, we've even got a pass there. Maybe the nomads from these higher areas. There we go. There we go. Just continue working on these. Again, just running that moisture. Not too bad. Not too bad at all. All right, let's go ahead and we're going to work on the tops of these mountains now. We do have some ochre, but I think we're going to add a dark gray to these. Okay, just the mountains themselves. We're going to reduce this about to 60%, and only where I want the real. Let's even go down. We're going to now start with our hardest material in these mountains, and we're just going to color those. And then we will then push the colors down into the valleys. That erosion and that fun stuff that happens. It's called weather. Who knows, we're getting a lot more of it lately with the things heating up. Okay. Hit that there too. See that? And anywhere there's kind of a little higher place, I'm just adding a touch. Because we added such a detailed texture to this, our highlights and lowlights, our color in those mountains and textures are just happy as a clam. We can see where's high, where's low. We've got light coming in from the top left corner. And then we got some big mountains right here. And all I'm doing is just running my brush up and down these mountains. Maybe up here in this area we get a little heavy mass there. Okay. Then right there. All right. We're actually quite happy with that. Let's go ahead, and our next step on this is we're going to actually get the peaks of these mountains done. We're going to go to about 15. And just on the top of these, now this is going to form, as we're putting this in, I'm just going on the tops. I'm staying away from actually doing a line and really working on to hit that strata that we made, all that texture, and keep that consistent. Because there's a surprise with that. We'll go into that a little later at another time. Okay, I'll spoil it. We're actually going to use this map and we're going to 3D print it. How you say? We'll find out. By doing this, we're basically going to do a height elevation. I'm being very specific on where I'm placing some of these colors. Not necessarily for that 3D printing, but we're going to use the natural colors that we're getting here, and we're going to create a composite with that. Do some funky computer stuff, and we're going to 3D print this map out, even make a globe out of it in some way. See that? We've got these really cool mountains. They're popping out like crazy. I'm happy with that. And again, trying to avoid straight lines by just hitting the top of the strata. Zoom in really close so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, really close, super pixelated. Okay, I'm trying not to do that. I'm trying just to, I'm pulling my stylus on these little bumps. Again, if there's a ridge like right there that I just did, that's fine. And it looks great. But again, I'm just trying to hit the peaks, because that's going to make it really break up, look realistic. I think the general idea is most maps, regardless of intentionally doing it or not, are drawn in June in the northern hemisphere, because that's when you get the biggest definition between everything on the map. I wonder how Google Map does that. I'm thinking to myself, saying, do they time a certain time of year? Do they scan the Earth? Because June's probably one of the best times. Oh, we got some. Let's retexture that. There we go. See? Quick dab. Fixed. Got our maps done up there. Let's come up here. Same thing, staying away from lines. However, the different peaks, once you pull out, it is going to, once you zoom out, it is going to definitely make some different lines. Well, to the eye anyways. Try to keep this snow on our gray mountains. However, if there's random little mountains that are popping up, we definitely want to hit them with that. They need love too. Again, just tapping away at this. Links in the description. If you want to grab ArtRage, just go to artrage.com or follow our link to support us. If you want one of the maps, if you're talking about one of the maps themselves, easiest way right now is to go through DriveThruRPG. All our maps have been approved. All of them are hanging out there. So, oh, you see this? We haven't broken this area up. Good. So we're going to go back to our knife. Going to come in, snickety snap. Let's give some love to these mountains right here. Just a little snow. See that? Almost done with these mountains. And then we'll get the final blending done. Going to add grasslands to this. Blend our grasslands into. Got some really cool mountains here. Again, staying away from just drawing a straight line or a ridge. Basking in the glorious of the instant rendering of the light effects. Don't need to go in, create alpha channels, or emboss any crazy stuff. Just draw. Paint, slide. Got a little bit of bad news about a project. I have to go redo. It's kind of weird trying to have that not throw you during a live stream. That's a new experience. Gut kind of drops out, and you're just wondering. Just try to keep swimming, keep swimming. Okay, see that, guys? See how good that looks? Let's come down and hit some of these mountains too. A little bit more. These are going to be kind of red rock mountains, not like that. We'll make sure that we keep this area all red and cool looking. There are some places that go from like these granite rocks right to red rocks like crazy. These mountains we're going to kind of keep them maybe a sandstony, maybe a chalk. Fix the texture there. Oh, alarm just went off. Sorry about that, folks. Again, hitting all our mountains. Zooming out. Okay. That is not too bad. Let's go ahead and start making the grasslands. To do the grasslands, I'm going to first start out with kind of this yellow. Then I'm going to cross it into the green. Pull it down into kind of a more pastel. Then add a sample into this. Go to our brush, zip this sucker up to about 250. Reduce the opacity and pressure quite a bit. And up here in our meadow area, I'm just passing the brush, very large brush over it. Up here, same thing too. That way you get some more definition. Just helps blend all the colors together in a happy way. No, maybe down here we'll do the same thing. Yeah, that looks a lot better. That looks a lot better. Just passing it over places, help blend stuff. Now let's go ahead and come back down here, and we're going to take one of our darker, well, actually let's keep doing this grassland thing. Going to take now a yellow, reduce this to about 69. Right here on this, we're going to actually add that yellow onto these higher elevated areas. We're also going to pass that yellow, oop, too much. Stay away from the mountains a little bit on those because you're going to get a weird shift. But in these higher areas down here, where we've got this cool strata, Just going in and very lightly just highlighting it. Okay, see the different effect you get with that? Again, over here, just highlighting the higher areas. It's where the wind's really kicked up. Now, the farther I get inland, the more higher areas I'm going to be hitting with this. Same thing up here. See, right here, it's all going to go crazy grasslands. Passing a little bit onto our base color there. That's fine. That's okay. Don't want to do too much. Try not to redo work we've already done. Like right here in this area. Oh yeah. See that? See how that pops? Alright. Not too shabby. Get some more of this. Once we're at a happy spot there, let me just finish up down here. Once we're in a happy spot there, we're going to move on to finishing the blend on this. Let's come up here, this poor neglected little area with the horrible rain shadow it has. I'm going to go a little nuts here, because, you know, why not? We're going to add a little bit of, in the darker spots right up here, we're going to add a little brown. Alright. Cool. That's looking pretty good. Okay, let's go back in here. We're now going to grab a lighter yellow. We're going to tone it down quite a bit, but still retain some of that. Add a sample to that. And we're going to zoom in. On these hills, we are, like right here, we're just going to pull the color. Little dots, just like we did on the mountains. Exact same technique on the mountain. We're just going to highlight the top of these hill areas with this color. See it right there? I usually would zoom in far away, but I want you guys to see the difference right now. Well, I'll zoom in close, not far away. But I'm focusing this color. I'm also passing this color into the mountains, the base of these mountains. Get my head in the game, get my head in the game. There we go. See that? See how those are popping now? When you get in close, it really, really pops hard. Same thing down here. Put a lot more color into these mountains because it just felt right. Again, let all the ones and zeros in the ghost machine talk to you. There we go. Right now the technique I'm doing is to blend it. I'm just doing little circles, not putting much pressure on the stylus. These mountain areas, I just added a little just to see what it does. I like that. I'm just focusing on the hilly areas. That is a good breakup. Okay. We've got our mountains, we've got our areas here. We're really digging what we're doing here. The next step of this, and oh, it's a fun one, is we are going to start making the forests. And the forests themselves are a little bit, well, they're a little bit interesting. If you remember the start of this video, we made a kind of a stencil and then we cut that stencil out. We're going to be doing the exact same thing with the forests, but we're actually going to be using a different tool than the ink pen. We're going to go into our sticker spray. Okay, ArtRage, you can add like a bunch of little fun, like there's dominoes, flowers. They have a lot of cool little things in there. More flowers, bristle. You can make some really cool brushes off this with a miasma. They even have like heron brushes. Hey, it's curly land. But what we're looking for is there's in the nature shapes, you have these really cool brushes that combine a transparent image with a texture. I have select Mossy 2 here. And we are going to we're going to make a new layer. And we are going to turn Mossy 2 up to 11. We're also going to look at our plans and increase the opacity of our plans by, let's go up to 40 so we can actually see what's going on. We can kind of see where we plant our forests. We're going to take Mossy 2. We're going to make sure there's no shadow on it. Okay, that'll cut down on the alpha layer. I'll show you why in a second. We want it to auto flatten, and we definitely want the symmetry to jump up and down. If we wanted to even go farther than that, there's all your choices. Have fun. Let's start just dropping down forests. We're going to start by placing our forests just like that. Okay, I'm going to turn down our reference. Actually, I'm going to turn off our reference for now. And I'm just dropping the forests at the base of the mountains. Now we're going to be editing these very subtly, so don't worry if it gets a little too crazy. And I'm back. I'm just adding the forest. I'm actually using my mouse. You can hear the key click because I want these forests to be consistent every single time. I'm paying careful attention to where we put our rain shadows, where the moisture is going to spill in for these forests. Up here, again, we got a lot of forest up here in this area. You can hear my mouse going. The wind just, spreads all that moisture. And you just go nuts with your forests. Just throw them everywhere. We'll edit this stencil more or less here in a few. Down here, I'm not going to go too nuts. I'm just going to put a few big blobs down here. Then we'll come in with smaller blobs. Same thing down here. Over here, we got this big forest area. We're just going to go absolutely crazy in this warm, nice temperate forest / almost a jungle. Bet it gets hot there during the summer. Maybe some there. Yeah, we're going to have a lot of forest coming in here because of that moisture just sitting there cycling. I'm just throwing forests again. These are a big forest. We're gonna scale this down a little bit more here in a second. Again, we have a big forest here. Now, usually I'd save at this point because you never know when. Let's put some big forest right here, so there's a hint of an Arctic, like an alpine valleys or stuff like that. Okay, now we're going to reduce this to 50. I'm going to be plopping smaller forests around these to break these up. See that? Christopher Token, who did the work for his dad for the token maps, he made his forests very stylized and big clumps. Forests actually really don't look like that. However, it gave a very the brilliance of that, though, it gave people a very definite idea of the locations. Okay, with natural map, if you say that forest over in XYZ by this continent, you know, people are going to look for a forest, and it might just be a 20 square mile forest. And on a map of this resolution, you know, that's just a blip. So what Christopher did is he made just the locations, and a lot of fantasy maps follow that because it's a really good idea. All right, then we're back up here. We're just breaking these up a little bit more, sticking to the higher parts of the valleys. Yeah, tiny forests. With our maps, going back to the forest discussion, since these are natural, we're kind of erring on the side of the two of those. We want people to perceive forests as they normally would. It's like, you know, reading. You don't do really weird letters. All right. But we want people to perceive these forests and yet give them something new. Give them something natural that is similar to Mother Nature. Now, right here, I'm just going to go nuts in this location because I think there's a lot of force there holding the ground together. Again, respect your rain shadow. All right, not too bad. Now let's go ahead and clean this up. The way we're going to do this, we're going to take this layer, we're going to drop it right above our basic landform. We're going to select the bottom layer, get out our selection tool, select the non-transparency in that layer. You can already see it's highlighting everything. Okay, and this is our base layer. We'll go up to our forest layer now. Now that we've highlighted everything, we hit delete, and we have instant clean forests. Okay, yes, they're pink. We'll fix that. They're pink and they're very flat. It looks like I vomited, you know, pink frosting all over the place. We're going to fix that now. The reason I did that is so I can see exactly where those were. We're going to lock this layer, our forest layer. We're going to choose a dark green. Okay, and going back to our, let's go back to our demonstration here. What we're doing at this point, we're actually adding little globs of paint with this method, just like this, to create the forests. The way we're going to do that is we're going to come down to our map here, and this level, this layer, the forest layer, we're going to change a couple things. We're going to go into layer options. We're going to go into bump blend modes and hit add. We spent a lot of time in the previous video. Again, that shortcut, that to get there, you go into your, as I totally just forget it, layer options, bump blend mode, add. What this is going to do is it's going to recognize that if there's any paint under this layer, it's going to build up the paint mask that we're going to use right now. We're going to switch our paint size. It doesn't matter any type of how your glitter, we're using the glitter tool next, looks, because we have these little things and it has that alpha channel. As we run our glitter through that and add all that mass, we are getting instant forests. Now I'm looking at these forests, and those are not bad. They're a little dark. A little dark. Way too blue. So we're just, you know what, let's use one of our colors. There we go. Adjust your color, find something that works for you. You can change colors. For this map, I'm just going to go hog wild with the forest of the same color. And you can see as I'm doing this, it just makes that pop. Now let me zoom in so you see what's going on. I'm pushing down with my mouse. It's adding a ton of mass to that. See it just plopping down there? And because there's that cool alpha channel, that transparent stencil, it's pretty much injection molding that paint into that little alpha channel that we made. Those little cookie cutters. And the more I push, the more forest I get. Down here with our big tropical forest. Something else to remember is that this area might look like a lot of forest. It is. But once you make it green, it's going to blend, it's going to mesh well, and it's not going to look as horrific as this pink. Same thing down here. And we have a realistic map, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go ahead and gussy up the the ocean underneath that. To do that, I'm going to use my yield airbrush. I'm just going to run my airbrush. Let's get some more opacity into that. I'm just going to run my airbrush around the continent, following the line itself, taking my time. This is going to allow things to pop. Okay. Then down here, same thing. Just gotta follow in the line. I am using my mouse right now just for consistency. We'll go in and we'll fix all that. I'm now going to pass my brush underneath the rivers, just one pass, to make them pop a little bit more, make them consistent with what we're doing around it. Using the same colors from our beaches, and I'm just passing this over. Then we're going to get our spatula tool. We're going to fix these up really quick. Go to spatula tool. Actually, before we do that, let's add a little depth to this. Let's go back to this brush, and down in this area, I'm just going to be, let's get the stylus out because this is going to be a lot easier. I'm just going to be running little circles like this in these areas. And we're all going to blend these the same way. And in the deeper part of the ocean, little circles. That was no bueno. Let's try that again. Very light in one pass. Hitting the middle of this area. Again, we're dealing with a airbrush. So, and it behaves just like an airbrush. Luckily, you can just Control-Z the crap out of it. Just Control-Z the devil out of this if you make a mistake. Alright, so we got that thing going. Really dynamic, really cool. And let's go now back into our brush, our knife brush. We're going to go to our default settings. We're going to heart web blend. Turn that up to about 250. And we're going to take our stylus and we're going to push that heart web blend from the continent, from the inner continent, out into the ocean. See what I'm doing there? Let's create this really kind of cloudy, natural look on everything. I make sure I'm running that all the way into the deep parts of the ocean. When you're experimenting and developing your own technique, do multiple layers. Create a layer, lock it, hide it. Now I'm just coming in the middle here and I'm just doing little circles in the deepest parts. Maybe spreading those in. Oh, made a mistake there, so let's kick that out. There we go. And ladies and gentlemen, we have our map. Super detailed. You see every hill, valley, mountain. Heck, you can see even individual tree clusters and stuff like that. We have a really cool ocean image. It has been a pleasure doing this map with you. I will be doing, next week, we are going to be doing maps on the iPad. And also, I want to do a quick review on how we did this map all in one video for those that don't want to sit through an hour and a half. Well, technically 2 hour-and-a-half videos. But thank you so much for coming. Oh, one more thing I just saw. Got some hills I don't like up here. Gonna fix them really quick. Boop, boop. Boop, 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 boop. There, done. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a map we made together. Thank you so much for coming. Like, subscribe, follow, do all the things. Buy our maps online. Here's a shameless plug for... etc. so forth. There's the map we've done. Hey, this is Dan. Thank you for watching the videos. Thank you for support. God bless and have a great day.